Stop whatever you're doing for the next 10 seconds and try something with me. Stand up right where you are. Lift one foot a few inches off the floor. Don't hold on to anything yet. Now count in your head. 1, 2, 3. If you're still standing at 10 seconds without wobbling badly, grabbing something, or setting that foot back down, congratulations. You just passed a test most people your age quietly fail without ever knowing it. And if you couldn't make it, stay with me, because what you just felt in your ankle, your knee, your hip, straining to keep you upright, is your body trying to tell you something most doctors never have time to explain in a routine 15-minute visit. Here's the part that should get your attention. That simple test you just ran isn't just about balance. It's connected to how steady you'll be on your feet 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Whether you're the person still climbing stairs on your own, or the person who's already started avoiding them. And this rarely arrives as one dramatic moment. It arrives as small surrenders you barely notice while they're happening. You start parking closer to the door. You wait until someone else is home before you shower. You choose the chair with arms instead of the one you actually like. None of those choices feel like decline. They feel sensible. But add them up over a year or two, and that's a life quietly getting smaller around you, one convenient shortcut at a time. My name is Dr. Ryan Cole. I've spent years working with older adults on exactly this problem, the slow, quiet loss of balance and leg strength that nobody warns you about until you're already holding a walker. And I want to tell you something plainly, right at the start. What you just tested is not a life sentence. It's a signal. And signals can be changed. Here's what I want to walk you through today. Why that wobble happens in the first place, in plain language, no confusing terms. The honest truth about what that 10-second test really tells you and what it doesn't. 4 simple moves you can start this week, at home, with modifications if you have joint pain or trouble standing for long. And a simple way to check, week by week, whether your signal is actually moving from red back to green. Before we go further, tell me something in the comments. When you tried that test just now, did you make it past 5 seconds, past 10, or did you have to catch yourself right away? I read these, and I want to know exactly where you're starting from. Now, let's talk about why this happens, because once you understand it, the fear starts to make a lot more sense. And so does the fix. Think of your balance as one control system with 3 sensors feeding it information all day, every day, without you ever noticing. The first sensor sits in your inner ear. It's like a tiny level, the kind a carpenter uses, constantly telling your brain whether you're tilting forward, backward, or sideways. The second sensor lives in your joints and the soles of your feet. It's your body's built-in position sense, quietly reporting where your knees, hips, and ankles are in space, even with your eyes closed. Physical therapists sometimes call this proprioception, which is just a fancy word for your body knowing where it is without looking. The third sensor is simply your eyes, filling in whatever the other 2 miss. When you were younger, those 3 sensors fed information to your brain almost instantly, and your brain blended it so fast you never even felt yourself correcting. You'd start to tip, and your body caught it before the thought ever reached you. As we get older, each of those 3 sensors sends a slightly weaker signal. And here's the part that matters most. Your brain also gets a little slower at blending them together. So there's a lag, a half-second delay between the moment you start to tip and the moment your body reacts. That lag is the wobble. That's the whole mystery right there, and it explains almost everything else we're about to cover. There's a second piece working alongside that lag, and it's worth understanding too. Starting around your 40s, most people begin losing a small percentage of muscle mass every decade, if that muscle never gets challenged. A natural process, sometimes called sarcopenia, which simply means age-related muscle loss. It doesn't announce itself. You don't wake up and feel it happen. But it quietly shrinks the exact muscles, your thighs, your hips, your calves, that your balance system depends on to correct itself in time. So you end up with 2 problems layered on top of each other: a slower warning system and weaker muscles to act on the warning once it arrives. The good news is both halves of that equation respond to the same simple fix. Research on older adults consistently shows that this kind of balance decline is common. It's not a personal failing, and the system responds to training much like a muscle does. Ignore it, and the lag grows wider every year. Give it regular, deliberate practice, and that reaction time can sharpen back up, often faster than people expect. But before I hand you that fix, I owe you something more honest than a hopeful headline. I want to be straight with you about what that test actually proves and what it doesn't. Studies on older adults have found that people who struggle to hold a one-legged stance tend to carry a higher general health risk over the following years compared to those who hold it easily. That's a real pattern researchers have observed. But here's the honest caveat, and I think you deserve to hear it. This kind of research shows a connection, an association. It does not prove that the test itself causes anything, and it doesn't mean a person who fails it today is doomed. Think of it less like a fortune teller and more like a warning light on a dashboard. It's telling you something worth paying attention to. It is not telling you your story is already written. So if you struggled with that test a few minutes ago, take a breath. You are exactly the person this video was built for. Now, before we get into the moves, I want to answer a question I know a lot of you are quietly asking. How do you tell the difference between normal aging and something that actually needs a doctor's attention? Here's a simple way to think about it. A little wobble when you turn quickly, some stiffness getting out of a chair after sitting a long time, feeling steadier with your shoes on than barefoot. These are common. Usually just an aging balance system asking for some retraining. But sudden spinning or true vertigo, new numbness or tingling in your feet, chest pain, fainting, and especially any sudden weakness on one side of your body, drooping in your face, or slurred speech, that is not something to train your way through. That needs medical attention right away, without delay. A useful rule of thumb, if the wobble has been building slowly over months or years, that fits the pattern we're talking about today. If it showed up suddenly, over a single day or a single week, or if it's paired with any of those warning signs, that's a different conversation, and it belongs with your doctor, not with a video. And one more thing before we move into the action plan. If you have joint problems, a heart condition, or a recent surgery, check with your doctor before starting anything new here. That's the only caution I'll give you today, and I mean it seriously. One small thing that trips people up before they even start, quite literally. Loose socks on hardwood, slippers with no back on them, a hallway rug with a curled edge. These small environmental details matter more than people think because they take away information your feet are trying to send your brain. When you practice any of these moves, do it barefoot or in shoes with a firm, flat sole if you can, on a surface that won't slide, and clear anything you might catch a toe on. It sounds almost too simple to mention, but I've seen more setbacks from a stray rug corner than from any exercise done wrong. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Margaret, a blend of many patients I've worked with over the years, not one specific person. Margaret was 69, sharp as ever in her mind, but quietly cautious with her body. She'd started taking the stairs one at a time, both feet on each step, gripping the rail white knuckle. She hadn't fallen, not once. She'd just started building her whole day around not falling. That's usually how it begins. Not one dramatic accident, but 100 small avoidances, quietly stacking into a smaller life. Margaret started with exactly what I'm about to show you. I'll tell you how her story ends a little later, because it'll mean more once you've seen the moves for yourself. Let's start with move 1, the slow stand. Sit toward the front of a sturdy chair, feet flat on the floor, hip-width apart. Cross your arms over your chest if you can. Now stand up slowly, without using your hands, and lower yourself back down over a count of 3. This single move retrains the large muscles in the front of your thighs and your hips, the exact muscles your body borrows every time you get off the toilet, out of a car, or up from a low couch. These are often the first muscles to quietly weaken from too much sitting, long before you'd ever notice it in your arms or your grip. Start with 5 slow repetitions, once a day. If your knees are sensitive or standing without your hands feels like too much right now, place a firm cushion on the chair to raise the seat height, or rest one hand lightly on the arm of the chair, just enough for confidence, not for lifting yourself up. As it gets easier, work toward 8, then 10, always with that slow 3 count on the way down. That slow lowering is where the real strength gets built, far more than the standing part itself. Most people rush this move without realizing it, standing up fast and dropping back down even faster, which skips right past the part that actually builds strength. Your thighs are only half the story, though. The other half starts lower down, at a joint most people never think about until the day it fails them. Move 2. The ankle wake-up. Stand at your kitchen counter or sink, hands resting lightly on the edge. Rise up onto your tiptoes, hold for a moment, then lower slowly back down. Your ankles are actually your body's first responders. The instant you start to tip, it's the small muscles around your ankle that fire first, catching you before the wobble ever reaches your knee or your hip. Waking those muscles back up gives your whole balance system a faster first response, which matters far more than most people realize. Do 10 to 15 slow raises, holding the counter only as much as you truly need. If standing for this feels unsteady, do it seated instead, pressing your heels down and lifting just your toes up off the floor, then reversing it, lifting your heels while your toes stay down. Either version wakes the same muscles. As you improve, let your grip on the counter get lighter, just your fingertips, until eventually you barely need them at all. You can even do this one while you're brushing your teeth or waiting for the kettle to boil, folding it into a moment you're already standing there anyway, so it never feels like one more thing added to your day. Strong thighs, quick ankles, now we put them to the real test, the exact one you ran at the very start of this video. Move 3. The guided hold. And this is where we circle straight back to that test from the start of the video, because that test is also your single best training tool. Stand beside your counter with your fingertips resting on it. Lift one foot just an inch or two off the ground and hold. On day 1, even 3 or 4 seconds is a real win. Do this on both legs because most people have a stronger side and a weaker side, and it's almost always the weaker side that causes a stumble in real life. If you live alone, here's a simple safety adjustment. Practice near a corner where 2 sturdy surfaces meet, like a counter and a wall, so you have support on more than one side, and keep a phone within reach during practice, just as a sensible habit. Over the coming weeks, gradually reduce how much weight you're putting through your fingertips, first just resting them, then just touching, then lifting your hand away for a second or two at a time. This move is directly retraining that half-second lag we talked about earlier, teaching your brain to speed its correction back up. It's uncomfortable at first, in the same honest way any real training is, but that discomfort is the signal your brain is finally paying attention again. There's one more move left, and it's the one that asks the most of you, on purpose, because it's the one that pays off the fastest. Move 4. The narrow path walk. Picture a straight line running down your hallway. Walk it by placing the heel of one foot directly in front of the toes of the other, as if you're walking a seam in the floor. This narrows your base of support, forcing all 3 of those balance sensors to work together at full capacity. Exactly the kind of challenge that sharpens the whole system at once. Of everything in today's plan, this move asks the most of your brain, not just your legs, which is exactly why it tends to produce the fastest improvement once you're ready for it. If walking it feels like too much right now, start simply by standing in that heel-to-toe position, one foot in front of the other, holding steady for 10 to 15 seconds before you ever try to take a step. Practice near a wall or hallway you can reach out and touch if needed. As you improve, try 5 steps forward, turn carefully, and walk 5 steps back. Over several weeks, work toward 10 steps in each direction. Now, here's how you know if any of this is actually working, because I don't want you hoping blindly for weeks on end without any real proof. Once a week, at the same time of day, repeat that original one-leg test and time yourself, out loud or with a clock nearby. Write the number down somewhere. A notepad on the fridge works fine. You're not looking for a dramatic jump. You're looking for small, honest movement in the right direction. 3 seconds becoming 5, 5 becoming 8. That slow climb is your signal shifting from red toward green in real time, measured by you, not by guesswork. Here's roughly what that climb tends to look like, so you know what's realistic and what isn't. In the first week or two, most people notice the moves themselves start to feel less wobbly, less effortful. That's your brain relearning the pattern, not new muscle yet. Somewhere around week 3 or 4, the weekly test number usually starts inching upward. By week 6 to 8, with consistent practice, many people notice they've stopped reaching for the counter out of habit, only using it when they truly need it. That timeline isn't a guarantee. Everyone's starting point is different, but it's a realistic shape to expect, so a slow week doesn't discourage you into quitting. Now let me finish Margaret's story. She started with 5 slow chair stands a day and 10 ankle raises at the sink each morning while her coffee brewed. Within the first couple of weeks, she noticed she could hold the counter a little longer, 4 seconds, then 6. By week 6, she took her hand off the counter for a moment and held it. She told me she stood there in her kitchen and just laughed out loud, startled at herself. A few months in, she was back to taking the stairs normally, 1 foot per step, hand barely grazing the rail. She hadn't gotten younger. She'd simply woken a system that had been running slow and quiet for years, waiting to be asked to work again. I think about another patient, too. A man in his 70s who told me he'd stopped playing with his grandkids on the floor because he was quietly terrified of not being able to get back up. 6 weeks into these same 4 moves, he sent me a message that just said, "Got up off the floor today without using my hands." Nothing else. That was the whole message. And it told me everything I needed to know about why this work matters. That's really the whole idea behind everything we've covered today. Your balance isn't broken. It's a system that speeds up or slows down based on whether you use it. The wobble you felt earlier isn't a verdict. It's information. And now you know exactly what to do with it. So here's your simple plan for this week. Tonight, 5 slow chair stands. Tomorrow morning, 10 ankle raises while your coffee brews. Once a day, a guided hold by the counter, both sides, holding a little longer than the day before. And when you're ready, 5 steps of that narrow path walk down your hallway. Before you go, I'd love to know 2 things in the comments. Which of these 4 moves felt hardest for you today? And do you live alone? Or do you have someone nearby who can spot you while you practice? Your answers help me make the next video even more useful for people exactly like you. Because here's what this really comes down to. Every one of these moves is training for the same single goal: staying the person who gets up off the couch without a second thought, who takes the stairs without gripping the rail like a lifeline, who walks into their own kitchen at midnight for a glass of water without a flicker of fear. That's not a small thing. That is the entire shape of an independent life, built 1 slow stand, 1 steady breath, 1 held second at a time. Nobody hands you that independence back all at once. It comes back the same quiet way it left, in small, unremarkable moments that only matter in hindsight. The day you stop reaching for the counter out of habit, the day you get off the floor without thinking about it, the day you take the stairs like you used to, without even noticing you did it. Those moments won't feel dramatic when they happen, but they add up to exactly the life you're trying to protect. Your body already gave you the signal today. Now you know exactly how to answer it. I'm Dr. Ryan Cole, and if this helped you feel a little steadier, a little more in control, hit subscribe so we can keep building that strength together, 1 video at a time. I'll see you in the next one.